Hey everybody, welcome back to another reasonable price prediction, the series where we try to figure out where your favorite altcoins could be headed. Now today we're looking at Dogecoin, but before I get into Doge, I would like to apologize for the lack of uploads this last week. I've been in hospital, so I didn't have access to my usual setup, and I'd also like to apologize for the quality of this video. The audio will most likely be much poorer, and the video resolution will be lower. This is because I'm away from home, but hopefully it shouldn't be for too long. I'll be uploading more regularly as the weeks go on as well, depending on how quick my recovery is. But anyway, getting past all that, I'm moving on to Doge. If you've watched my channel for any period of time, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of meme coins. I think that they're the riskiest you can get in crypto, and I think that the whole of crypto is an extremely risky business. So to go for that level of risk, I would usually avoid. It's not my cup of tea. However, I understand that some people, potentially you watching this video, will invest in Dogecoin kind of no matter what, because you've seen these kind of crazy gains that people have made and you want to potentially replicate that and you want to get some gains yourself, which is fair. But I think a lot of the information and data out there is very misleading. So I'd like to make this video in an attempt to maybe show some more relevant information that you might find more useful when investing in Doge. So that'll be like how long all-time highs usually take place after the halving, which I think will be very useful because if you take a look, if we both take a look, we've had two cycles that have run to completion with Dogecoin. And we saw the first cycle, which was 36 weeks for the bull market to take place. And the bull market went on for 40 weeks. So roughly somewhere around 80 weeks, give or take, after the halving, Doge topped out. Now, if we go to the second cycle, we can see things were much different. So it took 32 weeks for the rally to take off. And then about 19, 20 weeks from that kind of initial move to the peak. So you can see we had a much more condensed bull run here, much more condensed. And what's interesting about this is the monetary environment that we're currently in does not reflect the 2021 bull run. It reflects more the 2017, 2018 bull run. So we could potentially see a more elongated, more drawn out bull run from Dogecoin, not the kind of extremely quick, extremely volatile one we saw in 2022. And if you're not sure what monetary policy is, or unsure of a few of the words that I've mentioned, that's probably a good thing. It means you probably need to look into things a little bit more before you start putting lots of money into something you kind of don't really understand. And I'm not saying that to be rude, but there's a lot of factors that contribute to Dogecoin going up. And now, while some of those might just be like Elon Musk tweeting Doge to the moon or whatever, there are actually other factors like monetary policy. What is the American Fed doing? These things all play a big role. So what happened in 2021 was extremely different to what is happening in the global markets. Another interesting thing to look at is how long before the halving Dogecoin bottomed out. So we can see we actually have this data already for this cycle. So we can see this cycle, 96 weeks, Dogecoin bottomed out before the halving. But if we go back the previous cycle, we can see that it was 66 weeks before Dogecoin bottomed out before the halving. And if we go back to Dogecoin's first cycle, we can see that it was 61 weeks before the halving that Dogecoin bottomed out. So we can see these last two cycles, we've had something semi-regular leading up to the halvings. What happened to Dogecoin leading up to the halvings? We had our bottom, we had a rally up immediately after the bottom that was strong. We saw this in the 2019 one as well, that went on for very similar timeframes. There's a 3-week difference in the local top, and there's a 5-week difference in the local bottom. That's not too terrible over such a long period of time. However, when we look at what's happened this cycle, we can see it's a big outlier. We can see it's been 96 weeks since we bottomed and 75 weeks since we made that first strong move to the upside. So it suggests that this cycle so far is irregular. So does it invalidate the information that we've gathered before? Because before, these cycles have played out similarly, so it would have been safe enough to assume that something similar would happen afterwards. Something similar enough did happen afterwards, but now this bear market has been much different compared to what we're used to with Dogecoin. And in fact, it is still playing out very differently, because for the first time really ever, Dogecoin has had a really strong rally around the halving, basically into the halving. Usually it's either afterwards, we have a very strong move to the upside, or it's much before. But you could counter that again, assuming that the 2016 to 2018 kind of time frame is very similar to our current one. You could argue that, Dogecoin crossed the halving at a higher price than where it was during this local high. So from our all-time low or our cycle low, Doge makes a move up and it crossed the halving above this level during this cycle. The last cycle, it did not do this. It crossed at a much lower price than this local high. And this cycle, it looks like it's going to cross at a higher price than this purple one. So you can say that we have a few similarities in terms of this cycle and this cycle, excluding monetary policy, not even getting into the politics and the nitty-gritty and how much money is being printed. You can see that Dogecoin will most likely cross the halving at a higher price. It also had its strong rally before the halving, like we've seen here. Now, whether we continue to rally, I don't know, but I probably assume we'll sort of plateau out after the halving. So it is maybe safer to assume that we're playing out currently a lot more similarly to 25 to sort of 2018, 2016 to 2018. That we're playing out more like this time frame than we did from the 2018 to 2021 time frame, maybe. Now, that's up to you. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure, but that's what I think. And so if we're going to take what happened during this cycle, which seems to be playing out much more similarly, and we try and project what's going to happen based on this cycle, we can see that it took Dogecoin 36 weeks for the bull run to take place after the halving. Now, during this time, back in 2016, it was around February of 2017 when we had our bull run. So again, about 2/3 of a year afterwards, we had our bull run. So if we go 2/3 of a year from April, end of April, basically mid-April, it's going to put us at the end of the year for when our bull run takes place. And now this does line up with a few other theories, especially that do tie in with monetary policy. We will most likely have had rate cuts at that point. We will be cutting rates. So potentially we could be at a low enough level of basis points that we're able to have a very strong crypto bull run, and retail is able to come back in because people's money is more valuable, or they're earning more, or more money is being printed so wages can go up. These are things that we've seen happen before, not just in crypto, but in the whole financial market. So that is something that I would think is a possibility, definitely a possibility. I would lean more towards thinking that is going to happen than anything else. But again, I'm just a guy on YouTube. I can be totally wrong. I mean, I hope I'm not, because I don't want to spread misinformation, but this is what I'm seeing and this is what I think. And then, of course, just to finish up on the US dollar pair, if we do play out similarly last time, we will have a much longer bull run with potentially much harsher pullbacks halfway through. So we could see a sort of first leg of the bull run for a few weeks, have a very strong pullback over a long period of time, and then have another strong move up to the upside if it wants to play out like this. But again, no guarantee of anything. This is crypto, literally anything can happen. But based on historical data, political and Dogecoin related, we do look like we will move in this type of a direction. Now, taking a look at the Bitcoin pair, there seems to be a lot going on here, but really this will be kept very short. What I'm basically comparing is cycle to cycle, like we have been on the US dollar charts, but you'll see against Bitcoin, Dogecoin basically traded downwards against Bitcoin for its first two cycles, and then had a strong move to the upside, only to basically continue trading down during the bear run. Now, this reminds me very much of Litecoin. Basically, Dogecoin is a fork of Litecoin. They're basically the same cryptocurrency, they just have a different name on them. The only difference being Litecoin had a strong rally after its first cycle, and then just basically continued to trade down for the last two. Dogecoin traded down for its first two, and then most recently, this cycle has had its extremely strong move to the upside during the 2021 bull run. But of course, like we said, we're going to focus mainly on what's happening with Dogecoin around the halving time. Now we can see so far that from our low, Dogecoin has made a move of 100% to the upside, 100% move to the upside from this low, but generally we've traded down up towards that point. And this is over basically a 32-week period. Even longer, we've traded downwards basically. Now, if we take a look at what happened over the last few cycles, we can see that Dogecoin does trade down. And not only does it just trade down before the halving, like we see here and here, these last two cycles, but we also see Dogecoin continue to trade down for a long period of time after the halving, about 34 weeks. We saw this both cycles. Dogecoin traded downwards for about 34 weeks after the halving. And this lines up similarly at least this cycle, it lines up similarly with how long it took Dogecoin to enter a bull run on its US dollar pair. And when it did, after about 34 weeks, we see a very strong move, a strong break to the upside on Dogecoin, on its Bitcoin pair. Now, a key thing to notice here is similarly on the US dollar pair, during Dogecoin's first cycle, Dogecoin has a rally against its Bitcoin pair before the halving. And this was the same on the US dollar pair. Dogecoin had a rally before the halving and then continued to trade down until the bull run. If you remember, during the second cycle, Dogecoin rallied after the halving on its US dollar pair. And we can see here that if we zoom in, Dogecoin has a significant rally, significant enough after the halving, similarly on its US dollar pair, basically the same week. And then continues to trade down. It follows the trend, continues to go down. So we can see that a lot of the stuff that does happen on the US dollar pair does also play out on the Bitcoin pair. And we can see that from the low to high, from the low here that Dogecoin moves from to the high that Dogecoin sets in is a 150% move. And from here, the first cycle, the low that Dogecoin moves from to the high that Dogecoin moves from is a 300% move. So we can see we're halved in volatility. The volatility is decreasing as cycles go on. So here it drops 50%. And here, so far, we've dropped we've dropped a third from the current low that we put in here to the high that Dogecoin is in. And actually, we can bring that down a tiny bit. We can see it's basically 100% still. But ultimately, if Dogecoin tops out around here, it does kind of line up with the decreased volatility that we are seeing. Also, over the cycles, we can see Dogecoin usually has a rally and then just trades down up until we get our bull run. This happened the first cycle and the second cycle. It just varied on where we got our move to the upside, but ultimately didn't really change anything. We can now argue that potentially this is Dogecoin's green move, and then after the halving, we'll just continue to trade downwards like we have the last two cycles for approximately 35 weeks, and that's on our Bitcoin pair. But again, this is crypto, anything can happen. So I'm going to leave it there. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment down below if you agree with what I said or if there's anything interesting you think I forgot to mention. Again, I'll try to keep uploading as regularly as possible. But until then, have a happy Easter, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.